Welcome to part 3 of my series of my military journey. Again, this is not Heroclix related directly, though I think that Clix players should watch these to have an idea of what Red, White, and Clix is all about and why I'm doing it. Last video I left off at the warning orders part of my journey. So when I first enlisted, it was pre 9/11, and then 9/11 hit right after I transferred to the combat unit, the combat engineer unit. So the whole world changed after 9/11, and we went from our drills being our weekend drills being just busy work to actually learning our jobs better and training. And that was in 2001, and in 2004 we got the orders to have our bags packed. We didn't know we were for sure being deployed, but they're called warning orders. It's just got a heads up saying probably you'll get deployed, but there was still a chance we might not. And in 2004 was when my enlistment was supposed to be up. I was considering staying in, but I wasn't sure if I would or not. I was strongly considering it though. But when they put me on stop loss, it said that I didn't have a choice. I was going to stay in as long as they wanted me to. It made me very I don't know, jaded is the right word, conflicted. I was proud of my service and I was considering staying in anyway, but the fact that they took that choice away from me made me very conflicted about my career. So we're at the warning orders stage, and there was a chance we may not be deployed, and I was very scared. I'll be honest, I was scared. The idea of actually leaving the United States and seeing combat for the first time, and I've always watched the news, and the news is very scary about soldiers dying and whatnot. And my parents were very scared for me. I sat down with them one night and said, let's pray about this. And I said a prayer with my parents and prayed that if it was God's will that I be deployed, that He would give us peace in our hearts about it and take away some of the anxiety going on. And the moment I said amen, I felt complete peace and ease about the idea, which in itself is kind of scary, but at that point I knew that we were probably going to go to Iraq. So in October we got our official deployment orders, and we went to Camp Atterbury, Indiana. It's where one of the main posts was, where everybody left from. And we were there from October through December, and it was a very intense training. We lived there around the clock. They gave me 2 weapons that I would be in charge of. One was the 50 cal machine gun. I would be the gunner for the Humvee every time we left the base. I would sit up in the turret and man the 50 cal machine gun and do my job from there. And then if I was ever dismounted, I'd be carrying the 249 SAW, squad automatic weapon, and it's just a full bore machine gun. Had a bipod barrel, so if I was on the ground, it would hold the barrel steady as I shot. I forget the amount of rounds per second it would fire, but it was extremely powerful and heavy. was belt fed, and I had to carry 3 belts of ammunition on me at all times. And I forget the weight of those, but they were pretty heavy, and the machine gun itself was heavy. And I remember when they first handed it to me, I was like, this sucks. I cannot carry this 24 hours a day. But by the time we left for Iraq, I was so used to it, it felt like a feather. But they gave it to me one day and said the next day I'd be giving a class on it, which made me shit myself. Like, how am I supposed to teach people something that I just picked up myself for the first time? So that night I read the manual back to front and front to back, and learned everything I could about it. And the next day I was confident in giving a class on the weapon and how to use it, how to disassemble it and clean it, all that stuff. And they were so impressed by my lesson that they gave me other classes to teach about first aid and other things. So I kind of became a designated trainer of things overnight. While we were in Atterbury, they built a miniature model city of where we'd be stationed in Iraq. We slept in tents, and it was December, so it was cold. One day there was a call to the radio. There was a mob at the gates, and they hired a bunch of civilians to pretend to be Iraqis, and they were at the gates and threatening to overtake the base. And I didn't even put my boots on. I ran out in a foot of snow in my socks and ran to the gate to simulate holding off the Iraqis. That's how intense it was that I didn't even notice I didn't have boots on. I ran the 100 yards to the gate in socks in the snow and didn't even care. We're raiding a small town and simulate town, and I think it was my buddy Stuart that recognized that one of the simulated houses looked smaller inside than it did on the outside. And further investigation of the house, there was a hidden room, and we were one of the few units to actually discover that on our own. There was a simulated insurgent in there, and we had to simulate taking him out. But yeah, there was a lot of like kicking in doors and raiding simulated houses and all kinds of stuff. It was as intense as training as you can imagine. Everything you see in the movies, if you imagine it, it's probably happened. But we had to be ready to go to real life combat, and they were doing everything they could to get us ready. We did not think we were going to see our families again until after deployment, but we got word that we could go home for Christmas. So 2 days before Christmas, we loaded up on buses and we're leaving the base, and it was a blizzard. It was so crazy, and the bus slid off the road, and 75 men got out of the bus and pushed the bus back on the road. Said, "We are not being stuck here. We're going home to see our families." Pushed this massive bus back on the road, and we made it home for Christmas. Day after Christmas, we flew out. It was a commercial 747 that had been commissioned for specifically this purpose. I don't remember much of the flight. I remember sleeping most of the way. It was a very long way. It was like 18 hours, I think. About halfway through, we had to land in Ireland for fuel. The landing, I haven't flown a lot in my life, but the landing was crazy. The pilot thought it'd be funny to shake us up, and he gave us the roughest landing of our lives. And he got on PA and he said, "And that's why they call me Maverick." So he thought it was funny. Actually, it was kind of funny, but definitely woke us up. I wish I could have seen more of Ireland while I was there, but the fog was so thick you couldn't see a foot in front of your face. The panting in the background you hear is my dog Jules. She doesn't like the heat. Yeah, it was foggy, so we couldn't see much. Of course, we all had a pint of Guinness while we were there, and we flew out again after they filled up. And we landed in Baghdad in Iraq in the middle of the night. We landed, and then we were bused to our next station, and the bus windows were blacked out, but we still had to duck down, so no part of our body was visible through the bus windows. That was pretty intimidating. That they're like, do not have any part of your body showing. We got to the temporary camp. All of our equipment was super outdated and old. It was 50 plus years old. The Hummers had no called up armor on it, no extra armor. They were just regular Hummers like you see on the road. So being engineers, we rigged up the armor as best we could. We found every sheet of steel and metal we could find. We welded it to the Hummers. One of the doors, when we opened it, had so much weight from the armor on it that it fell off. So that was interesting. We tested the armor with every caliber of firearm we had to make sure it would stop it. It did. But we welded everything we could to these Hummers to make them as secure as possible. Look at my notes here. So I was the designated 50 cal gunner, and the didn't have a seat for me. I'm sticking up out of the Hummer, and there was a seatbelt strap going across the hole that I put my head out of, and that's all I had to sit on for the 5+ hour trip to the next base. So that was actually, I remember duct taping like pillows and stuff to it to make it less uncomfortable, but there was a permanent bruise on my butt for a while, just from the belt I had to sit on, and the suspension was trash on these Hummers anyway, but the added armor made it like extra, like there was no suspension. I distinctly remember the very first night at this temporary base, before we bust up to our main base. Every base had a rule of unloading your weapon before you enter the base. You had to clear it, make sure there's no ammunition in the barrel, nothing, for safety's sake, obviously. And one of the people in that area that returned to base from a mission failed to do so. So they were unloading the 50 cal from the Hummer, which is a 6-foot long weapon with a barrel attached. It's very heavy, so it's a 2-man carry. And the person on top of the Hummer was handing it down to the person on the ground, and they didn't clear the weapon when they got on base, and it discharged, decapitating a soldier. This happened right outside my bunker. I was one of the first persons on the scene because I heard it outside my door, ran out, and saw a man with no head, with the weapon that I was going to be manning for the next year. So that image I see in my dreams every night, and I think about it constantly. But that also made me very conscious of the rules of engagement, the rules of the base. Rules are there for a reason, and if you don't follow the rules, people die. I didn't know this soldier. He was somebody that was permanently stationed there, just came back from a mission, handed their weapon down, but I don't know if it's negligence or fatigue or just didn't care, but they didn't follow the rules, and somebody lost their life because of it. It was intense, and I will remember that night for the rest of my life. Yeah, so the next morning we got on a convoy up to our main base. Baghdad is kind of in the middle of the country. You think of my hand as the country, Baghdad's right in the middle of my palm, and we were going all the way up to Mosul, up in the mountains of Iraq, probably somewhere around like where my fingers were wiggling. It was a good 5-hour trip. I don't remember exactly, but it was a long trip. Hot sun, and I was on the convoy, the gunner seat of the convoy, and my butt was so puckered that I could have shed a diamond. I just seen somebody die, and I was not going to let that happen to anybody on my watch. And that was my mentality for, well, till now, the rest of my life, really. To not let anybody die if I could prevent it. So I was a stickler for the rules. I sat in that gunner seat and watched like a hawk. Everybody, as we went down the road, if anybody got too close, I discharged my weapon, make sure that they stayed away. I remember shooting out an engine block in a car because they were coming towards us, but they were too close, and I shot the 50 cal going through their engine, disabling the vehicle. But we made it to our base in Mosul relatively unscathed, other than the one incident where I shot the car. Nothing happened and everybody got there safe. I'm going to end this video here. I think that's long enough. We've gone through everything up to our station in Mosul. Yeah, so stay tuned for more to come. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.